Hello and welcome to Lucid Mind. This is Majid and today I'll be solving IGCSE Chemistry Multiple Choice Paper 12 from October-November 2020. You can go to any particular question by following timestamps given in the video description. Let's start.
Question number 1. The movement of a substance varies slowly from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration. Which process is being described? Now, movement from an area of high concentration to an area of low concentration is called diffusion. A liquid being frozen. Now, this is state change. It is not diffusion. B. Solid melting. Again, this is also a state change from solid to liquid. It is not diffusion. So A and B are incorrect. C. The substance diffusing through a liquid. Now this is an example of diffusion. For example, ink when put in liquid water, it starts to diffuse. In D, a substance diffusing through air. This is also an example of diffusion. For example, perfume spreading in air. Now we know that in liquid, the molecules have less movement as compared to the air, because in air, the molecules have very random motion and very fast movement. So in liquid, diffusion will be slow as compared to the diffusion in gases, which will be very fast. So correct option is therefore C. Question 2. Oxygen melts at minus 219 degrees centigrade and boils at minus 183. At which temperature is oxygen a liquid? We can solve this type of question by drawing temperature line. Temperature increases in this direction. As melting point will be lower than boiling point, so melting point comes first and then comes boiling point. Now the state before melting point is always solid state. After melting point, the substance becomes liquid, so the state is liquid. While after boiling point, the substance will become gas. Let's put the given values. Minus 219 degrees centigrade is the melting point. So minus 219, and minus 183 is the boiling point. So minus 183 is written with the boiling point. A is minus 225 degrees centigrade. As we can see that minus 225 comes in this region, that is below minus 219 degrees centigrade. So the substance will be solid at this temperature. B is minus 189 degrees centigrade. By putting this value in this number line, we can see that minus 189 will come in this region. So oxygen will be liquid at this temperature. C is minus 175 degrees centigrade. As minus 175 is greater than minus 183, so minus 175 will come in this region. So oxygen will be gas at this temperature. Again in D we have 25 degrees centigrade, which is greater than the boiling point. So as 25 degrees centigrade is greater than the boiling point, minus 183, so it will also come in this region, and therefore oxygen will be gas. The only temperature at which oxygen will be liquid is minus 189 degrees centigrade. Question number 3. Which diagram shows a burette? You should remember the shapes of apparatus. This is beaker. This is pipette. This one is measuring cylinder. And this one is burette. The answer is therefore D. Question 4. In the chromatography experiment shown, which label represents the solvent front? Now solvent front is the distance traveled by solvent from baseline. As D is the baseline, so the distance traveled by solvent front would be this much. The answer is A. Question 5. Different methods of separation rely on a substance having different properties. Which property does distillation make use of? Now we know that distillation is separation on the basis of boiling point. So it is not color, not particle size, not solubility, only boiling point. Answer is therefore A. Question number 6. Which statement about atomic structure is correct? A. Isotopes have different nucleon number but the same proton number. Now this is a correct statement because isotopes have different number of nucleons but same number of protons. Nucleon number is the sum of protons and neutrons present in the nucleus of an atom. B. Metal atom gains electron to achieve a noble gas electronic structure. Now this is false because metals always lose electrons to achieve noble gas configuration. C. The nucleon number is the total number of electrons and neutrons in the nucleus of an atom. Now this is not true because it is the number of protons and neutrons in the nucleus. Electrons are not present in the nucleus, they are present in the shell. So C is incorrect. D. Protons and neutrons are oppositely charged particles. This is incorrect because protons and electrons are actually oppositely charged particles. Neutrons have no charge. The answer is therefore A. Question number 7. Which element is a non-metal? A is scandium. Now scandium is a transition element and we know that all transition elements are metals. B is sodium and sodium belongs to group 1 of the periodic table. Group 1 is of alkali metals. Strontium is also a group 1 member and it is also a metal. D. Sulfur. Sulfur belongs to group 6 of the periodic table. The members of group 6 are always non-metals. Correct answer is therefore D. Question number 8. The structure of propane C3H8 is shown. This is the structure. We have 3 carbon atoms and 8 hydrogen atoms which are single bonded with carbons. How many electrons are involved in the bonding of propane? Now you should know that in the bonding between carbon and hydrogen, 1 electron from carbon and 1 electron from hydrogen is involved, which make out a single covalent bond. Similarly, the single covalent bond between one carbon and another carbon also consists of 1 electron from one carbon and 1 electron from another carbon. So 2 electrons are involved in single bond as we have 10 single covalent bonds. So the number of electrons involved will be 20 electrons. The answer is therefore D. Question 9. Rubidium is in group 1 of the periodic table and bromine is in group 7. Rubidium reacts with bromine to form an ionic compound. Which row shows the electron change taking place for rubidium and correct formula of rubidium ion? As rubidium is present in group 1 of the periodic table, so group 1 is metals, and metals lose electron to form ionic compound. As it is in group 1, so it will lose 1 electron, so rubidium atom will convert into rubidium plus 1 along with the loss of 1 electron. So the charge on rubidium will be plus 1 and 1 electron is lost. So it could be C or D, and it is C. So answer is C. Question number 10. Which statement explains why graphite is used as a lubricant? A. All bonds between the atoms are weak. As in graphite, each carbon atom makes 3 single covalent bonds with other carbon atoms. So the bonds are strong, they are not weak. B. It conducts electricity. Now, graphite does have free electrons, therefore it is a good conductor, but this is not the reason for it to be used as a lubricant. C. It has low melting point. Now, graphite does not have low melting point, its melting point is quite high. Layers in the structure can slide over each other. Now, this is a true statement because in graphite, carbon atoms are present in the form of layers, and only weak forces of attraction are present between the layers. Therefore, layers slide over each other, and due to this sliding, it can be used as a lubricant. The answer is therefore D. Question 11. The formula of which compound contains the largest number of group 7 atoms? As we know that group 7 consists of halogens, and the members of halogens are fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, and astatine. In A we have iodine, and only one atom of iodine is present, so we can write one iodine atom. In B we have 2 chlorine atoms present. In C we have bromine atom present from the halogens, and there are 3 atoms of bromine. In D we have 1 fluorine atom present, that is from halogens. As the number of bromine atom is largest among these, so therefore answer is C. Question number 12. The relative atomic mass of chlorine is 35.5. When calculating relative atomic mass, which particle is the mass of chlorine atom compared to? Now, whenever we are taking relative atomic mass, it means that it is compared to an atom of carbon, which is taken as 12. So A, B, and D are incorrect. Only correct option is C. Question 13. Universal indicator solution is added to a neutral solution of concentrated aqueous sodium chloride. The solution, which contains H+, sodium+, chloride, and hydroxide ions, is electrolyzed. The product at cathode is hydrogen gas and the product at anode is chlorine gas. What happens to the color of the indicator in the solution during electrolysis? In the start we had a neutral solution, so in neutral solution the number of H positive ions is equal to the number of OH negative ions. Now the solution contains H positive and sodium positive ions, and the discharge of H positive is easy as compared to sodium positive according to the discharge series. So therefore H positive will convert into hydrogen gas upon gaining of electron, while sodium is left in the solution. Among the anions, we have chloride anion and hydroxide anion, but as the solution is concentrated, so it means that chloride ion is in higher concentration as compared to hydroxide ion. So we can say that chloride ion will lose electron to form chlorine gas, and hydroxide ion are left behind in the solution. Now as we can see that H positive ions are being removed in the form of hydrogen gas, while OH negative ions are left in the solution, so therefore the concentration of OH negative ions will be greater than H positive ions after electrolysis. This means that pH of solution will increase. Now the sequence of colors of universal indicator solution according to pH is red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo and violet. These colors change as the pH increases. A is the color change from blue to green. As we know that blue to green is reverse, so therefore it will be for decrease in pH, so this is incorrect. B is the color change from blue to red. Again, from blue to red we know that this is backward change, so this is for decrease in pH. C is the color change from green to blue. Now green to blue is forward, so it means it is for increase in pH, so this could be correct option. D is the color change from green to red. Again, green to red is backward, so it is for decrease in pH, so this is incorrect. The answer is therefore C. Question 14. Which energy level diagram represents an endothermic reaction? Endo means inside and therm means energy or heat energy. So therefore in the endothermic reaction what happens that heat is absorbed by the reactants. So if heat is absorbed by the reactants, then the energy of product will be higher than the energy of the reactants. So in A the energy of product is lower, which is incorrect. In B the energy of product is higher than that of reactant, so it could be an endothermic reaction. In C we can see that the reactants are at higher energy as compared to products. This is incorrect. In D the reactants and products are at equal energy, which is also wrong. Correct answer is therefore B. Question 15. Which process is a physical change? A is burning a piece of magnesium. Now magnesium is a metal and it burns in oxygen to form magnesium oxide, and this is not a physical change, it is a chemical change. So A is incorrect. B is dissolving calcium carbonate in hydrochloric acid. When we dissolve calcium carbonate in hydrochloric acid, it converts into salt, which is calcium chloride, along with the production of carbon dioxide gas and water. This is also a chemical change, so B is incorrect. C is melting an ice cube. Now this is just a state change from solid to liquid, so it is a physical change, so C could be correct. D is the rusting of iron nail. Now iron in the presence of oxygen and water, it converts into hydrated iron oxide. The formula is Fe2O3.2H2O. This is also a chemical change, so D is incorrect. Correct option is therefore C. Question 16. Which substance does not require oxygen in order to produce energy? A is coal. Now coal is made up of carbon, and carbon requires oxygen in order to produce carbon dioxide and energy. So A is wrong. B, we have hydrogen. Again, hydrogen requires oxygen to combust to produce water along with energy. So B is also incorrect. C is natural gas, which is CH4, methane. It also requires oxygen to form carbon dioxide, water, along with energy. So C is also incorrect. D is uranium, and uranium can produce nuclear energy without the need of oxygen, as this involves only the disintegration of nucleus. So therefore answer is D. Question 17. Nitrogen and hydrogen can be converted into ammonia using a catalyst. What is the purpose of the catalyst? Now what catalysts do is that it increases the rate of chemical reaction by decreasing activation energy. A. To increase the amount of ammonia produced. Catalyst does not increase or decrease the amount of product, so A is incorrect. B is to increase the rate of reaction. Now catalyst does increase the rate. C is to reduce the amount of reactants needed. This is also incorrect because product always depends on the amount of reactants. D is to reduce the rate of reaction. This is also wrong. The correct option is therefore B. Question 18. A reaction is carried out at 4 different temperatures. The time taken for the reaction to complete at each temperature is measured. On y-axis we have time and on x-axis we have temperature. And this is the graph. What is the relationship between temperature and the rate of reaction? Now rate of reaction means that the amount of product formed in a definite time span. If time taken is less, then the rate of reaction will be faster. If time taken is more, then the rate of reaction will be slower. A. The rate decreases as the temperature increases. Now we can see that at 20 degrees centigrade the time taken was 60 seconds. While at 30 degrees centigrade time taken was 30 seconds. At 40 degrees centigrade the time taken was almost 15 seconds. So we can see that as temperature is increasing, the rate of reaction is also increasing because time taken is lowered. So A is incorrect. B. The rate increases as the temperature increases. This is true because as we are increasing the temperature, the time taken is lowered. At 50 degrees centigrade, only 10 seconds is required to complete the reaction. So B is correct. C. The rate is proportional to the temperature. This is not true because we do not have a straight line. If we had a straight line, so then this would have been true. So C is incorrect. D. The rate is inversely proportional to the temperature. This is incorrect because when temperature increases, the rate also increases. The correct option is therefore B. Question 19. During the manufacture of sulfuric acid, sulfur dioxide is converted into sulfur trioxide. Which type of reaction is this? In this reaction we can see that SO2 gains an oxygen and converts into O3. So gain of oxygen is called oxidation. We can also find the oxidation state. In SO2 we have 1 sulfur and 2 oxygen atoms and the overall charge is 0. For 1 oxygen the charge is -2. For 2 oxygen the charge is -4. So sulfur will become +4 in SO2. The oxidation state is +4. Similarly in SO3 we can find the oxidation state. For 3 oxygen it will be -6. So sulfur will become plus 6. So from plus 4 to plus 6 is also oxidation. A. Displacement. This is incorrect. B is neutralization as there is no acid base, so this is incorrect. C is oxidation and D is thermal decomposition. Correct answer is therefore C. Question 20. When pink crystals of cobalt-2 chloride are heated, steam is given off and the color of the solid changes to blue. What happens when water is added to the blue solid? This is the reaction. So we have pink color on the reactant side and blue color on the product side. When water is added to the blue solid, the reaction will move backward and pink crystals will be formed again. So the color will change to pink. Now forward reaction is endothermic as pink crystals are heated. So therefore the reverse reaction will be exothermic in nature, and in exothermic temperature increases. The correct option is therefore B. Question 21, which describes a base. A. It reacts with ammonium chloride to produce ammonia gas. Now this is true because let's suppose we have ammonium chloride and it reacts with sodium hydroxide. It will produce salt, water, and ammonia gas is released. B. It reacts with calcium carbonate to produce carbon dioxide gas. It is wrong because calcium carbonate reacts with acid to produce carbon dioxide. C. It reacts with copper to produce hydrogen gas. As the reactivity of copper is very low, so it does not react with base to produce hydrogen gas. D. It turns blue litmus red. This is wrong because base turns red litmus to blue in color. Correct answer is therefore A. Question 22. Which compound is an acidic oxide? You should know that non-metal oxides are acidic in nature. A is aluminum oxide. Aluminum oxide is an amphoteric oxide, which means that it can behave as an acid as well as a base. B is carbon dioxide as carbon is a non-metal, so carbon dioxide is acidic in nature. So B could be true. C is copper-2 oxide as copper is a metal, so its oxide is basic in nature. Similarly, D is also a metal oxide because we have magnesium, so metal oxides are basic in nature. The correct answer is therefore B. Question 23. Which statement describes how a flame test is done? A. The tip of clean wire is dipped into the substance and the wire is placed in a blue Bunsen burner flame. This is true. This is the correct method. B. The tip of clean wire is dipped into the substance and the wire is then placed in a yellow Bunsen burner flame. This is wrong because the Bunsen burner flame should not be yellow, it should be blue in color. C. A wooden splint is lit and is placed above a test tube containing the gas being tested. This test is for oxygen and carbon dioxide. It is not a flame test. So this is incorrect. D. A wooden split is lit, blown out and the glowing split put into test tube of the gas being tested. Now this procedure is used for testing of oxygen. So D is also incorrect. So the only correct method for flame test is described in A. Question 24. A student carries out an experiment to prepare pure magnesium sulfate crystals. The diagram shows the first stage of the preparation. He adds magnesium carbonate until no more reacts. Which processes should he use for the next stage? In the reaction, he uses magnesium carbonate and sulfuric acid. The product formed will be magnesium sulfate plus water plus CO2. As in the reaction he uses magnesium carbonate until no more reacts, it means magnesium carbonate is in excess. So in order to remove the excess of magnesium carbonate which is unreacted, he must do filtration as the next step. The answer is therefore C. Question 25. Which row about elements in the periodic table is correct? A. Two elements in the same group have similar chemical properties. This is true. B is two elements in the same group have similar chemical properties. In C, it says two elements in the same period have similar chemical properties. This is incorrect. In D, two elements in the same period have similar chemical properties. Again, this is incorrect. Now moving to the statement 2. Metals are on the left of the table. This is the correct statement because metals are on the left of the periodic table while non-metals are on the extreme right of the periodic table. B is metals are on the right of the table. This is incorrect. C, metals are on the left of the table, and D, metals are on the right of the table. So statement 1 and statement 2 both are correct in option A. Question 26. Tennessine TS is a newly discovered element. The atomic number of tennessine is 117 and it is placed directly underneath astatine in group 7 of the periodic table. The trend in properties of group 7 elements are shown. We can see the boiling point, density, color and reactivity. Which statement about the properties of tennessine is likely to be correct? As tennessine is put below iodine, so we can write tennessine over here. A. Tennessine has a higher reactivity than astatine. As we can see that in group 7 reactivity decreases down the group, so as tennessine is below iodine, so therefore the reactivity will be lower. So A is incorrect. Stop. Start. B. Tennessine has a lower boiling point than astatine. As we can see that the trend in boiling point is that it increases down in the group. So therefore tennessine's boiling point will be higher than that of astatine. So the boiling point will be higher. So B is incorrect. In group 7 we have fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, astatine and then tennessine. C. Tennessine is a lighter color than astatine. As we can see that the color becomes darker down in the group. So therefore the color of tennessine will be darker as compared to astatine. So C is also incorrect. D. Tennessine is more dense than astatine as the density increases down in the group. So therefore tennessine would have higher density as compared to astatine. So D is correct. Correct option is therefore D. Question 27. A flammable gas needs to be removed from a tank at an industrial plant. For safety reason, an inert gas is used. Which gas is suitable? Now, inert gas means gas that is unreactive or noble gas. And in periodic table, inert gases are present in group 8. A is argon. Argon is a noble gas and it is also inert in nature. B is hydrogen. Hydrogen is highly flammable, so it will burn. C is methane. Methane is also a compound which is highly flammable gas. D is oxygen. Now oxygen is also incorrect because it helps in combustion process. The correct option is therefore A. Question 28. A substance X has the following properties. Number 1. It has high melting point. Number 2. It conducts electricity in solid and liquid states. Number 3. It is malleable. Number 4. It has high density. A is a ceramic. Now a ceramic has a high melting point, but it is a bad conductor of electricity. B is copper. Copper is a metal and metals have high melting and boiling point. Good conductors in solid and liquid states. They are also malleable, which means they can be made into sheets, and they also have high density. So B could be correct. C is graphite. Now graphite also has high melting point. It can conduct in solid and liquid form, but it is not malleable. D is sodium chloride. It has high melting and boiling point, but sodium chloride is bad conductor in solid state as the ions are not free to move. The correct answer is therefore B. Question 29. Which diagram best represents the structure of a substance that is a good conductor of electricity at 25 degrees centigrade? From the structures given, we can see that A is giant covalent compound. B is simple molecular, as simple molecule consists of 4 atoms. In C we have opposite ions present, so C is giant ionic. While in D we have similar atoms in white and there are few atoms that are of different sizes. So D could be the structure of an alloy. Now in A we can see that each atom is making 4 single covalent bonds. So it could be carbon making 4 single covalent bonds with other carbon atoms. As there are no free electrons, so A is bad conductor. B is simple molecular substance which is also a covalent compound. It has no free electrons, so B is also a bad conductor. In C we have opposite ions, so it is an ionic compound, but the ions are fixed at 25 degrees centigrade. They are not free to move, so C is also a bad conductor. In D we have metal atoms, and as there are sea of electrons present, so even in the form of alloy it will be a good conductor at 25 degrees centigrade. Correct answer is therefore D. Question 30. Some properties of element Y are listed. Number 1. It reacts with hydrochloric acid to make hydrogen gas. B. It reacts with steam but not with cold water. The oxide of Y cannot be reduced by carbon. What is element Y? With the first statement we can say that acids react with metals to form salt and give hydrogen gas. So Y is a metal. We have reactivity series of metals in which potassium is at the top as it is most reactive. Then we have sodium, then calcium, magnesium, aluminum, and these are all more reactive than carbon. Now from the first statement we can see that copper does not react with HCl to form hydrogen gas, so it is not copper. Number 2, it reacts with steam but not with cold water. From second statement we can eliminate sodium because sodium does react with cold water to form sodium hydroxide and release hydrogen gas. Magnesium does not react with cold water, it only reacts with steam to form oxide. So it could be C. Third point is that the oxide of Y cannot be reduced by carbon. Now as we have iron and magnesium left, iron is below in the reactivity series as compared to carbon. So carbon can reduce the oxide of iron, so therefore it is not iron, it is magnesium whose oxide cannot be reduced by carbon. Correct answer is therefore C. Question 31. Oxides of nitrogen are given out from car exhausts. Which row best shows why oxides of nitrogen are unwanted in the atmosphere? First option is acidic and second option is toxic. Now we know that in engine what happens that nitrogen can react with oxygen to form oxides. As it is a non-metal oxide, so non-metal oxides are acidic in nature. And this is also toxic because it can dissolve in water to form acid rain. So nitrogen oxides are acidic and also toxic. The answer is D. Question 32. Water is purified using several processes. 4 of the processes are listed. One is chlorine is added to water to kill any bacteria. Second is water is passed through coarse gravel to remove large pieces of dirt. 3. Water is passed through wire screens to remove large twigs. 4 is that water is passed through fine sand to remove small particles. In which order are the processes carried out? Now we can say that first water should be passed through wire screens in order to remove large twigs. So this is the first step. Then water should be passed through coarse gravel to remove large pieces of dirt. So this is second step. In third step, small particles should be removed. While in fourth step, bacteria should be killed. So the sequence is 3, 2, 4 and 1. The answer is therefore C. Question 33. When solid S is heated strongly, it forms gas G. G turns lime water cloudy. What are S and G and which type of reaction does S undergo? S is calcium carbonate and sodium carbonate, as we know that calcium carbonate can be decomposed by heating strongly while sodium carbonate does not decompose, so it is calcium carbonate. When calcium carbonate decomposes, it forms calcium oxide along with carbon dioxide gas. The property of carbon dioxide is that it turns lime water cloudy, so it means that G is CO2. So it is carbon dioxide. Now the type of reaction in which calcium carbonate is decomposed is thermal decomposition. Thermal decomposition means the breaking in the presence of heat, while it is not combustion. The correct answer is therefore B. Question 34. The element sulfur is found in a number of different minerals. Which mineral contains the greatest percentage by mass of sulfur? We can use the formula of percentage composition. So percentage of sulfur will be equal to relative atomic mass of sulfur, which can be obtained from periodic table, into number of atoms of sulfur divided by the molecular mass of compound into 100. Let's calculate the MR. For A we have barium, sulfur and 4 oxygen atoms. So the molecular mass is 137 for 1 barium, 32 for 1 sulfur, and as it is 16 for 1 oxygen, so for 4 oxygen it will become 64. So it is 233. For B, we have 1 lead and 1 sulfur. The atomic mass of lead is 207, while for sulfur it is 32. So it comes equal to 239. For gypsum, we have 1 calcium, 1 sulfur. Calcium is 40, sulfur is 32, while there are 4 oxygen atoms. So for 4 oxygen it will become 64. The molecular mass comes equal to 136. In D, we have 1 iron, 2 sulfur. So for iron, the atomic mass is 56, while for 1 sulfur it is 32. So for 2 sulfur it will become 64. Collectively it comes equal to 120. Now calculating the percentage of S. For A, the atomic mass of sulfur is 32. Into number of atoms of sulfur, there is just 1 sulfur atom in barium sulfate. So into 1 divided by molecular mass of barium sulfate, which is 233, into 100, and it comes equal to 13.7%. Similarly for B, we can calculate atomic mass of sulfur is 32. Number of atoms is just 1 atom. Molecular mass of compound is 239 into 100, and the percentage comes equal to 13.38%. For C, the atomic mass of sulfur is 32. There is just 1 sulfur atom present and the molecular mass is 136. So the percentage of sulfur in C comes equal to 23.5%. Similarly for D, atomic mass of sulfur is 32 and there are 2 atoms of sulfur present in iron sulfide, divided by the molecular mass of iron sulfide, which is 120, into 100. The percentage of sulfur in D comes equal to 53.3%. So we can see that the greatest percentage by mass of sulfur is present in D. So therefore answer is D. Question 35. Which structure represents a molecule of ethanol? In ethanol, we have 2 carbon atoms and it is an alcohol. So the molecular formula is CH3CH2OH. A is CH3CH3. Now this is the structure of ethane, in which single bond is present and there are 2 carbons and 6 hydrogens. In B, we have double bond present between 2 carbon atoms and there are 2 carbons, so it is ethene. The formula is C2H4. In C, we have 2 carbon atoms. With first carbon atom there are 3 hydrogens, with second carbon atom there are 2 hydrogens, and we also have OH. So this corresponds to the formula of ethanol, in which first carbon has 3 hydrogen atoms while second carbon has 2 hydrogen atoms and also an OH group is attached. So C is ethanol. We can also write C2H5OH because there are 2 carbons, 5 hydrogens and 1 OH. In D, we have C double bond OOH functional group, which represents carboxylic acid. So D is ethanoic acid. So the answer is C, which represents an ethanol. Question 36. Petroleum is separated into fractions by fractional distillation. Separation occurs in fractionating column. Some properties of 3 of these fractions are shown. Which statement is correct? A. Fraction 1 has higher boiling point range than fraction 2. As we can see that in fraction 1 the number of carbon atoms in chain is less as compared to fraction 2, which is 16 to 24, so therefore the boiling point will be lower. So A is incorrect. B. Fraction 2 is removed from a higher point in the fractionating column than fraction 1. In fractionating column, as the gases move towards the top, the boiling point decreases, so does the temperature. It means that fraction 1 will be removed from top position as compared to fraction 2. So B is incorrect. C. Molecules in fraction 3 have shorter chains than those in fraction 2. As we can see that the boiling point of fraction 3 is less than fraction 2, so it means that molecules in fraction 3 would have shorter chains than in fraction 2. So this statement is correct. Shorter chains produce low boiling point as compared to longer chains. D. None of the fractions are liquid at room temperature. As we know that from carbon 1 to 4 we have gases and above 4 we have liquids, so fraction 1 is a liquid. So D is incorrect. The correct answer is therefore C. Question 37. Which statement describes methane? Methane is CH4. It is an alkane, and as it is one carbon alkane, so it is a gas at room temperature and pressure. A. It is an alcohol. As there is no OH functional group present, so it is not an alcohol. B. It is an unsaturated molecule. For unsaturated molecule, there must be a double bond present between two carbon atoms. As there is no double bond in CH4, so B is incorrect. C. It contains carbon, hydrogen and oxygen atoms only. As there is carbon and hydrogen present, there is no oxygen atom, so C is incorrect. D. Each molecule contains 4 single covalent bonds. In the structure of CH4, we can see that carbon makes 4 single covalent bonds with 4 hydrogen atoms. So D is correct. The answer is therefore D. Question 38. The flowchart shows the preparation of ethanol and some important chemistry of ethanol. What are X, Y and Z? The first process is fermentation. Now we know that glucose can be fermented in the presence of yeast to form ethanol. And ethanol can also be used as a fuel. So in fuel, what happens that combustion of ethanol takes place and it forms carbon dioxide along with water vapors. So substance X is glucose, process Y is combustion, and substance Z formed is water in the form of steam. Correct answer is therefore B. Question 39. The structure of propane is shown. We have 3 carbon atoms and 8 hydrogen atoms. Which statement about the atoms and the bonding in propane is correct? A. All the bonds are single bonds. As we can see that all bonds between carbon and carbon and hydrogen are all single. So A is correct. B. Each carbon atom only bonds with 2 hydrogen atoms. As we can see that this carbon atom is making bond with 3 hydrogen atoms. So B is incorrect. C. Propane is an unsaturated molecule. As there is no carbon-carbon double bond present, so it is wrong. It is a saturated compound. D. There are 3 carbon-carbon bonds. As we can see that only 2 carbon-carbon bonds are present. One is this one and one is this one. So D is incorrect. The correct answer is therefore A. Question 40. The structure of compound X is shown. This is the structure of compound X. We have carboxylic acid functional group present. X is in the same homologous series as ethanoic acid. Which row describes some of the properties of an aqueous solution of X? As we know that ethanoic acid is an acid, and therefore compound X also behaves as acid. First is reaction with calcium carbonate to produce a gas. Now acid does react with calcium carbonate, so we can write acid plus carbonate gives salt, water along with carbon dioxide gas. So it should be yes. Second is neutralizes copper oxide, as copper oxide is a metal oxide and metal oxides are basic in nature. So acid can neutralize base, so it should be yes. Third is turns methyl orange red. As we know that methyl orange is red in acid while yellow in alkali. So it should be red in X. So it is a yes. Correct answer is therefore C.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Stay tuned for more upcoming videos. Stay happy, take care.